The next modification we're gonna do for the Ninja is the GSXR rear shock swap. It's supposed to be pretty simple, pretty much plug and play. Just a couple of things that you gotta be aware of that I'll go over in the video here. The GSXR shock is pretty cheap. You can get these for well under 100. I got this one for 75 with shipping. So I saw online some people got it for less, but I wasn't able to really find much better deal. This one's a pretty good one. It's from a 2015 GSXR 600, and that's one that works well for my weight. And as you can see, it looks in pretty good condition here with no issues, just a little dusty. It's got 6,000 miles on it, so also not bad. One of the things you got to consider is that the oil can get old in these, so you don't want anything that's too old because that can have some issues with that. So even the 2015 being 8 years now might be an issue, but I'm not seeing any issues with it right now. Worst case scenario, I'll have to swap it back. But yeah, we'll give it a shot and see how this goes. So here you can see the rear shock of the Ninja 400, and this is the original. You can see the bracket here is where it's connected at the top, and then it's connected also down here. So those are the bolts you got to basically switch out. For some of the aftermarket kits, that's pretty much all you would have to do is just switch them out for the new shock. But we're trying to do a more cost-effective approach with the GSXR shock here, so that's why we kind of have to finagle it a little bit differently. One of the issues is that the GSXR shock is a little bit on the shorter side, so if you just attach it to these points, you end up with a little short of a ride in the back, which isn't ideal for riding conditions. So what you can do is you have a few options. You can get some height adjusters on here, or you can actually flip this mount here, and that would actually make it 5 millimeters higher in the back, which is actually a little better for riding, helps the bike turn in a little quicker, but you also got to be a little more careful riding like that too. The one problem about switching the mount though is that it's got a connection point right here on the battery box, and so you actually have to take apart everything on the inside here to even take out that bolt in order to switch it around. So that's kind of the most annoying part about the whole thing. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and tackle this and switch it out here. First thing you gotta do, of course, is take off your rear seats. So you're gonna remove those, and then you're gonna have to take apart this side fender here, so that way we can get to the tank and remove all that and get that out of the way. So for here, it's just a 4 millimeter Allen, just on both sides of the bike. Once you take out those little bolts, all you gotta do is just pull this out, and it's just being held on by some rubber grommets on the inside, so that comes out pretty easy. After that, we're gonna just tackle the tank by taking out these here. This is gonna be a number 5 on that one. You also got a number 4 up in the front here. Next, you just gotta release the hoses. There's one here, and then one up the front there that I'm gonna try to pull off without taking off that fairing. On this side, you got the fuel rail, and you just want to basically pull this toward the front of the bike and just very gently loosen it from this end. And then as you do that, you'll be able to slide it right out toward the front of the bike there. After that, you want to release the fuel line and just be careful, it might spill a little bit so it doesn't hurt. And then you just have this other connector on the back here that you have to release as well, and then you'll be able to take the tank right off. Next, you do have to release this nut just so that you can access this one back here, just to release this box, because basically we're trying to get under here. We got the battery back here. You can see all my lights for the underlight, and this is the area we gotta kind of clean up and get under. Once you take off the bolts there, you can just kind of move the wires around, kind of release everything, and then you can just slide this right out. And then we have access to the ECU, where we just gotta unbuckle these, and then we'll have to get underneath that as well. So you'll have 3 gray connections for the ECU, and then 2 bigger connections down there. And once you release those, you're able to just pull your ECU right out. And then now you can see you have access to those 2 bolts, and that's the whole reason we did all this. The 2 bolts are 10 millimeters, so you can pop those right out. Now real quick, we're actually gonna pop down to my pegs here because you can see these kind of fold up, and we actually need to flip these over because when we take off the shock, you'll need something to actually support the bike on the front end here. So I'm gonna flip these over. The way you do that is that you just release this kind of lock thing here. You push that right out, and you'll be able to pull this pin out, and then you'll be able to slide the peg right out. You just flip it over and then just kind of redo it. Don't forget to take a picture in case you forget how it looks, because you want to make sure that you put it back obviously the same way. So I have the spring here, and I have the peg back on with the bolt in, and I put the lock on there too. And as you see, it's going to be able to not go up any further than this. So that's what we basically need, so that way we have some support for the bike. So we'll show you how we support it in a second. Now that we have gotten to this point, here you can see where I have the jacks underneath the pegs, and those are basically going to support the bike on the sides. And yeah, so now I can go ahead and take off that rear shock. So you'll have 4 bolts you want to remove. There's one at the bottom right there. These are all 14 millimeter, and you're gonna have 3 at the top right here. These 3 at the top are a little trickier to get to. So if you have something that allows you to kind of get into those back corners, something like that, will help. So just a reminder, those are 3 14 millimeters there. Once you do that, you basically pop out those bolts, and then you can remove the rear shock. Of course, nothing can go easy, so when I went to remove the last bolts here, you can see my exhaust is in the way. So I guess we're gonna have to loosen all this up, and we'll try to get that bolt out. When I put it back, I'll probably flip it around the other way. There you have it. There's the original OEM shock. And let's put it right next to the new GSXR one. You can see about the same length. Pretty much both have the eyes on the top and bottom. This one has the reservoir in the back, and it's got all the extra adjustments here. So yeah, looks like it's gonna definitely be a better addition overall. Another slight modification that you'll have to do is this lower arm is a little bit loose by itself, so you just need to get these 2 M10 washers. And yeah, you can get these pretty much at any hardware store. And yeah, I guess the width that when they added on there ends up being precise to what you'll need for putting this on properly. So here is where you're gonna make your main kind of change. That's to set up the GSXR for this bike, and it's just you got to flip that bracket over. So you can see now the connection points for the battery box, which were on the top, are actually going to be on the bottom now, because we literally flipped this one to this side and then turned it upside down, and vice versa basically. So I don't have these screwed on yet, but I have these on for now. You can get a Norton bracket to get this actually connected on the top. There'll be another bracket here that you can add on. Costs about 40 bucks. I did order it initially, but it was taking forever to come in, so I said forget it. I'm just gonna throw it on and just kind of deal with it as is. And you don't really see too much down here, so it's not gonna be that big of a deal. For the battery box itself, I end up using some zip ties up there just to secure it. Yeah, so now we're just gonna tighten those up, and then we can add the actual shock into the middle here. All right, so I kind of skipped ahead a little bit and pretty much have it all completed, basically. So once you take out the bolts, you basically just have to put them back and torque them down to spec. And you got the upside down bracket right there. I put some gasket sealant on there just in case, because the ones in the back were kind of hard to torque down. So I put them on. They're on pretty good, but just in case, I just threw that on there just for some extra support. And then I flipped the bolt on this side just so I don't have that issue next time removing it with the exhaust. So yeah, so we have it all completed. We have it back all set up. When you're doing it, you want to make sure that everything is supported. Now I took off my jack stands, and you're gonna put the upper part in first, or at least that's what I did, and then I was able to adjust the swing arm to get the lower side in, so you shouldn't have to force it too much. For the lower bolt here, you'll actually want to put the 2 M10 washers, and they're gonna go on the inside. So that part was a little tricky, but basically you wanna put the bolt, then you're gonna have the bracket, and then you're gonna have a washer, and then you're gonna have the shock, and then another washer, and the bracket on the other side, and then the nut at the end there. So that's basically how it's gonna go on the bottom. When I torqued down this side, I did actually remove this small little piece right here. There's just 2 number 4s you got to take out, and that allowed me better access to get back to the nuts there and just tighten it all down. All right, so here we are after going going for a ride, and yes, this mod was definitely well worth doing. So here I got a chance to actually show you my lights in the night, and I'm just going and cycling through all the different modes. So yeah, as you can see with LEDs, you can pretty much do everything. Yeah, so that's the bike, and here we go. Look down here at the new shock. Definitely made a big difference in the ride quality, I feel. With the original shock, it was just super soft. So especially when you were taking off, it just, I don't know, it just felt more sloppy. But with this, you feel a lot more planted. And yeah, just, I mean, you definitely feel a lot more in your butt. But I got a new seat coming in hopefully next week or the next couple of weeks, which will hopefully help with that. But yeah, definitely makes the ride a lot more enjoyable, especially, you know, a lot more sporty. So that'd be good. And then hopefully maybe this weekend at the track, I'm going to try to see if I can get it maybe adjusted even further with a suspension guy there if there's somebody there. But definitely not too difficult of a mod, you know, pretty cheap overall. It makes a really big difference. And hey, look, I've been blessed by a little dragonfly. So yeah, GSXR 600 shock on a Ninja 400.